we have this coastal road coming up. Then
Yeah.
we have this underground metro, and we have our own the link road metro. Uh, how do you think that is affecting the city's fabric?
So, see, every city needs good infrastructure, right? I cannot live in Bombay, or I cannot want to live in Bombay and say that we can't have a metro, we can't have
Yeah.
a road, we can't have. But again, Bombay is a city which is blessed with the sea on three sides. I mean, literally
Yeah.
peninsula. So, do we need to have a road which is going to disconnect that very ocean from us? Is the question to ask. Also, do we need roads or do we need public transportation? So, if you're going to build a road with crores of taxpayer money, one which takes the sea away from you, you're never going to have your beaches again. And two, it's only for car owners. So, what happens to the large majority of population?
Hello, welcome back to The Serial Designer. Today I have my dear mentor with me today. She has 25 years plus of industry experience. She's a landscape architect herself and 15 years plus of academic excellence. She is associated with the top ranking institute of Mumbai, and today she's here to give us insights on what a typical student teacher relationship is like and what is the role of a mentor in the life of a student. Welcome, architect Shilpa Chandawarkar ma'am. Please hit the subscribe button flashing on the screen. Also, drop in your comments as to what else do you all want to see in our podcast episodes. Thank you. Ma'am, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm honored today because I'm sitting right in front of you and you're my mentor as well. I would like to start with this when a faculty is with a student and the student is of a very nascent stage, 18 to 23 years of a vulnerable age. How hard is this responsibility of mentoring the student?
Okay. So when I started teaching, I was also a very nascent age, as you say. I was right out of my master's, 24 years old. So the first batch that I taught were only a couple of years younger to me. And that time, my whole focus was on, are they listening to me, not listening to me? Are they making fun of me? Are they not making? So, but that was the beginning where I was struggling to ensure that I manage discipline, I manage to convey the subject, and I also get a grasp of how much they are understanding. But over the years, like now I'm teaching for 25 years, and my children are the same age as the students I teach. So now it's not that difficult. It's like talking to your own kids. Also, because you've gone through that whole, your own kids growing up, the teenage years and the problem years. And so I think now it is much easy. It's great actually. They grow in front of you. You know now whether the subject interests them or not, whether they like the assignments given, the methods of teaching. So I think my personal graph, parallel to my teaching graph, has helped me like grow in both. It's also kept
Yeah.
me young because I know how naughty they can be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that whole graph of 25 years has been, they're parallel, and
They're
that has
parallel.
helped. Yeah.
But ma'am, also, 18 to 25 years of age is the age where, they're building themselves up
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
themselves as individuals, not as only designers, but they're building themselves up. So how are you going to deal with them? What if they want to shift careers, or what if they realize it's not for them, or they realize this field is for them? How does this work?
So, in a way, being a teacher is slightly easier because you're not the parent. You are not answering, your husband or your in-laws or society in general कि तुम्हारे बच्चे ने architecture join किया, अब उसको films करना है. So, that responsibility is not there. However, I think it's also my job to expose them to the various possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think if you have done architecture or if you have done engineering, you gave it 5 years of your life. You don't necessarily have to give it the next 50. Right? It is a
Yeah.
basis. Architecture is a very, very holistic field. It teaches you a lot more beyond designing or making a building.
Hmm.
So I somewhere feel that anything they choose, the basis will remain in these 5 years. So if they have come to
Yeah.
know of, let's say, set design,
Hmm.
I think they'll make brilliant set designers because uh, of their knowledge of space, color, texture, proportion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll do it much faster than somebody who is doing a set design.
Hmm.
Similarly, if it's journalism, if they will, because again they have learned analysis, they've learned to analyze space, users, people. I think they'll make great writers. So if they have to act, so I just think that my job, I mean, I feel that if I get a sense by third year, fourth year,
Hmm.
this kid is not exactly going to be designing
Buildings.
building, but doing something else. I almost I think I encourage them to look at that avenue deeper before making
Hmm.
a choice.
Hmm.
But it doesn't disturb me at all कि ये नहीं किया ये किया,
Hmm.
because I think architecture provides you a very, very sound foundation for any other creative field that you may choose.
Hmm.
So
But like you said, it's a very thing that it's a holistic field.
yeah.
So so I get asked this a lot. You're an architect and you also teach, you also do these podcasts. But what about buildings? Like, who's designing buildings then? So I do get this question, like, when we go to society,
Yeah.
parties, or whatever, when we meet our relatives, especially when we meet our relatives. So they have this notion in mind कि अच्छा buildings तो design नहीं कर रही है. Okay, interiors कर रही है, but not buildings as such. But yeah, I think that gave me clarity that it is okay to not be directly into the field, but at the same time be a part of the field and be an educationist.
Yeah, I
Or
also think there are enough buildings and
yeah.
the city is full of empty buildings.
Yes.
And I think, yes, it's very tempting to get that one project where you, give it your all and that becomes your signature for life. But not everyone has that luck
Yeah.
or that fortune also to get that project. So, and I think you either just fall in love with the idea of designing and, building a building. But I think anything else also deserves and needs equal attention to detail, equal attention to creativity. And it's equally rewarding. So I understand if you're a doctor and, you can't not practice medicine. And even so, I know doctors who are very good dancers and very good singers. So I think it's one life. You should do
Whatever you
yes,
actually passionate about.
yeah, and you can be passionate about more than one thing in life. So just because you studied architecture,
that
you
too
don't
in
have to
phases.
give up. Yeah, you don't have to give up on
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So
And ma'am, like during your teaching career, 25 years of teaching career, was there this one moment where you felt so fulfilling about this 25
there
years
are
of...
many, many such moments. But last to last year, there are many. I'll at least tell you 2, 3 of them. Last to last year, 3 of my students joined a Masters in Landscape Architecture program in very good universities in the US. So that was very, very fulfilling. Not because I had told them go do landscape, but they chose that subject and they chose to do their Masters because of the way they got exposed to the subject in first year, second year, third year. I have been with them for 5 years. So that was very, very, and I know they'll make great landscape architects. So that was really nice. Second time was when we have a trophy by my mentor, Professor Mohammad Shahir. He's no more. We have a trophy in the NASA convention in his name called the Mohammad Shahir Landscape Trophy. So 3 years back, my college, our students had won that trophy. That was also very, very fulfilling because we had launched that trophy with the idea to kind of spread the knowledge of the subject to undergraduate students. So that was very fulfilling. Um, Many moments every time the results are out, every time they do a good project, they come back and they tell you about it. That's great. Their parents come
That's when
in.
they remember you. They come back. They
Yeah,
give
every Guru
gratitude.
Purnima, every Teacher's Day, my phone is flooded with messages, and I attempt to reply to each and every one of them. That's extremely fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I think just sometimes when I come home and I talk to my children, and I think I understand them better because of the time I spend with the students. I think that is a great byproduct of my teaching. I think I have a great relationship with my own children. So I think, yeah, it's very, very fulfilling.
The career is fulfilling. So very early on, chose teaching. But did you start off with the teaching landscape, or you ultimately ended
Yeah.
up there?
So I was always practicing as a landscape architect, and I started teaching also the subject of landscape because I was a visiting faculty for a very long time. For in fact 15, 18 years, I never taught full time, and I used to only teach landscape, and then I used to I used to guide final year thesis students. And I had a concurrent practice. And I would teach 8:30 to 11, 8 to 11 in the mornings, and then go to my workplace. And over a period of time, I realized the best part of my day was 8 to 11. And I used to struggle to get through 11 to 7. So at one point when I thought I had done, I won't say enough work, nobody does enough work, but I felt I enjoy teaching more. But yeah, it was after 18, 19 years of practice that I have now moved to full-time teaching.
Okay. Again, talking of landscape, what is this career like? I mean, what is a typical day in the life of a landscape designer?
architect.
Like, I mean, this is especially for the students who want to attempt landscape, but they exactly don't know what is their job going to be.
So, so landscape, first of all, landscape architecture is one profession, which ties nature to the man-made. It's the poetic to the real world scenario. So it's there's something in it for everyone, and also it also teaches you that how tiny you are in the universe. I mean, you can plant a plant, but it will not grow unless it's in the right soil, receives the right amount of water, the right amount of sunlight. So there's nothing artificial about it. A lot of it is your engagement with nature. So it's a very humbling profession. At the same time, just it also gives so much what is the word, there is a lot of relaxation, there is a lot of de-stressing when you are in a landscape. When you are smelling the flowers, when you're hearing the birds, when you are walking on wet soil, or you're walking on a lawn, there is a very different engagement. So for me it's a beautiful field to be a part of. Now, as a design professional, when you take up landscape, and in India, unfortunately, I think landscape is only available as a postgraduate program. So you have to finish architecture, and then you can enroll in a 2-year postgraduate program.
All right.
So you are already equipped to design, but this kind of brings you back to land, water, vegetation. So and it makes you, I think the first thing it does is that it makes you a more sensitive architect. You think twice before you will terrace out a piece of a hill, or you will flatten out something, or you'll just get rid of some rocks which are on the site. So you will become a more sensitive architect. But then also it offers you the option of doing only landscape architecture, which is more of outdoor space design, which is more of land modulation, which is also simply open space. There may be a building or there may not be a building. Also, in today's day and age of climate change, landscape architecture is not about design alone. It is about
Yeah.
dealing with mitigating, adapting to floods, adapting to all the natural disasters that are happening, which are beyond our control. But the right landscape solutions, nature-based solutions, can actually um, really do a good to all of mankind.
Yeah. So, anybody who's concerned, so people do talk about this, they're sensitive towards land, they're sensitive towards nature, they're sensitive towards climate change. So, anybody who is into something like this, they should opt for this kind of a,
Yeah, absolutely. I think
that's their go to.
I think so. Even if you are just even a poet at heart, I think landscape is for you. If you are an environmentalist at heart, landscape is for you. If you respect ecology and other non-human species, then landscape is for you. You have a green thumb, landscape is for you. So I think it is so vast, the profession. You could be doing a small little streetscape, balcony, a terrace garden, or you could be looking at the the coastline, the western coastline of India, and you could still be making a very, very valuable contribution. So
Coastline. So now when we talk of coastline, that's a good point that you raised. We have this coastal road coming up. Then we have this underground metro, and we have our own the link road metro. How do you think that is affecting the city's fabric?
So, see, every city needs good infrastructure. Right? I cannot live in Bombay, or I cannot want to live in Bombay and say that we can't have a metro, we can't have a road, we can't have. But again, Bombay is a city which is blessed with the sea on three sides. I mean, literally peninsula. So do we need to have a road which is going to disconnect that very ocean from us, is the question to ask. Also, do we need roads or do we need public transportation? So if you're going to build a road with crores of taxpayer money, one which takes the sea away from you, you're never going to have your beaches again. And two, it's only for car owners. So what happens to the large majority of population who needs buses, who needs cycle tracks, who needs pedestrian pathways, who needs the metro? I think metro is a better
Option.
Any public transportation, efficient public transportation. So I am personally not in favor of infrastructure which is for the select few, which kind of disregards the natural wealth that we have. So, but any day for pedestrian networks, bicycles, public transport, that's very much
even for that
needed.
matter, two-wheelers, which is the largest amount of
because of fuel efficiency,
fuel efficiency
speed of
wise,
movement,
or even financially also. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of families, middle class families, who have two-wheelers. They cannot afford a four-wheeler.
Correct. And if you build a road, 8-lane road, which does not allow your BST bus on it, which does not allow two-wheelers on it, which does not allow pedestrians on it, it has a heavy toll that you have to pay. And you reach 15 minutes early, or you may reach half an hour early. I still don't know if it's worth it. So
That's something to think about, especially when you talk of disconnect with the
so
ocean.
see, one compares, but China has this and Singapore has this and New York has this, but world over people are turning to reducing roads, reducing cars, reducing fuel consumption. So I think we are not thinking at the same speed that we should be thinking. And India is poised for being the top country in the world. I think these are errors. Errors meaning, I think they are not needed.
Ma'am, I've heard of green roads also, which many European countries are also adapting to. What are those?
I don't know what are
Green highways or green roads.
No, so there are. There are roads which are cutting through forests, so they have animal crossings which are made to allow. But you are not going to be, when you cut through a forest, like our Samruddhi Marg is doing, it is slicing through forests. And yes, we have animal crossings. But how are you going to educate the animal that, thoda aage jaake tum cross karo?
Yeah.
So I think, it's my personal opinion, and
But there must be landscape architects who must be involved in this process of
No.
making. So there aren't any.
So that is the sad part. Our profession is a very, very small population, in the larger thing, and we are not really. I don't think landscape architects, planners are really involved in the details of this. You're called upon at a stage when everything is done, and maybe you want some planting to be done, but it's too late. And even planting to be done, sometimes we are told कि इधर ये फलाना पेड़ लगाना है, या हमने वो देखा था वो वाला लगाना है, या पीले फूल वाला लगाना है. So even when you are, especially like highways which are spanning through different geographical regions, different forest types, should be having native vegetation in each of those belts, because if you have a 2000-kilometer long highway, you're obviously going through 3-4 different geographical regions. But if you are also told कि तुमको यही पेड़ लगाना है, you also told कि टेंडर में ये पेड़ आ गया है, और पेड़ है but it is in a large cement pot on a concreted median. So the पेड़ का role is not being fulfilled, right? It is greening. It is not playing any
It's
ecological
just playing an aesthetic
role.
purpose.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not preventing soil erosion. It's not giving shade. It is not giving anything. It's not going to grow to its full size also in that pot. So
There's no point of.
yeah.
that.
So landscape architects should be involved much earlier in the day. And I think we as a profession need to stand up for ourselves a little more.
So a little more sensitivity is required in general.
Much more sensitivity.
Much more sensitivity.
And involving the right professionals at the right time. Because for the first time in many, many years, we have the ambition, the money, the drive to take on these projects. So I think we should do them right. We will never do them again for the next 100 years.
Like, yeah, the coastal road, the decision has already been taken.
Yeah, it's
how
taken, it's done.
More times opportunities are going to get to build.
No, and there have been enough representations by professionals on how one can do it a little better or a little more people friendly. But I don't think those representations have been given due consideration.
So these representations are through competitions.
Architects? No. There have been groups of architects. There have been citizen groups who have made a point, given options also. कि ऐसे नहीं तो कैसे. Not much has moved in that direction.
A lot of students also have done architectural theses on, say, trans harbor links or highways. So a lot of people do, a lot of students are doing. So like being a design educationist, how are you? So are these students really actually sensitive towards this? Like, have you seen this culture?
So that's a whole nother topic, and I think a whole nother podcast also. The thing with an architectural thesis, especially where I teach, which is University of Mumbai, there is a need for a built solution, a built intervention. Like there has to be a built program, and the student is expected to design it to the last detail. And that is what the thesis is about. So there have been times when the students question us कि यहाँ पे कुछ भी बांधने की क्या ज़रूरत है. So if they are, say, looking at, say, national parks or even river fronts, when they look at waterfronts and they want to say that, okay, the city has a river, so let's design something which is along the river. And when they come up with ideas of maybe some promenades and some ghats or some decks or parks, we have to tell them, but this is an architecture thesis, so you need to build. And you need to design a building there. And then you're obviously questioning that why should you design a building at a riverfront? Because it is having a problem of flooding. It can have a problem of urban flooding. It can have a problem of, waste going through the river, all of that. And we still tell them to build because the thesis demands a building. Yeah, so the requirement is that they have to build. So sometimes even when you can't build, you have to tell them कि नहीं, but एक build solution चाहिए. So Actually, I think it's a good thing. Over the years, students are questioning
Mm-hmm.
how can we be sensitive to waterfronts, to wastelands, to why should we do greenfield development when we can do brownfield development. They talk of adaptive reuse, not necessarily take virgin land and again build a few thousand square feet on that. So I think there is sensitization also happening, and we probably need to soon enough change the norms. We can't say कि हम building बनाओ, बड़ा building बनाओ, उसको detail करो, and that is the criteria for passing. So I think the world is changing.
So
So
research can be how to safeguard whatever's existed also. That also can be considered as a
yeah,
research.
and really, what does the community need? See, you don't design a commercial complex because you have to learn how to design a commercial complex. You design a commercial complex where people need it. Or you don't go to a Kolivada and you put up this fancy office and co-working spaces and shopping centers. You design what the community needs. You engage with the community and then build a design program. And I'm very happy to say a lot of my students are now doing that. So I think it's good. The future is sensitive, and we'll tread carefully. We need to tread gently. We are in the age of climate change. So we have to be careful.
That's the way forward. That's the
It
way
is
forward.
the way forward, and it's now. There is no waiting time. It is the future is also today. Abhi jo karna hai, because climate change is here at the doorstep. No,
There's no
go.
other way. So when you talk of changing norms, I mean, Mumbai University, they haven't changed a lot since the decade or a few decades for that matter. Okay, there are a few changes now, but syllabus was made like long back, so it sure needs to be altered because architecture is for 5 years,
Yeah.
and people are now so students often have this question, okay, giving
So
5 years.
but I don't think. I think the syllabus is fairly okay where it is. It gives a lot of leeway for things to be added. Like we have a lot many electives in the 5 years.
Electives,
We have colleges have choices of their own choice in college projects. What they do. So there is a lot of leeway. I still think you need to know brick is a brick, stone is a stone, and timber is timber. So, and history, one does need to know where we are coming from. But and what has really changed is the method of expression. Graphics have changed, softwares have changed. Response to climate, how a building can respond through parametricism, that has changed. So I do think that, the syllabus can get a little less rigid. But it's not in a bad place. It's okay. But I think, yes, we do need to accept that the world has changed. So we need to change the lens through which we see the whole thing. Tum paper pe badlo ya na badlo, unless you look at it differently,
It's not going to affect.
Yeah.
And so very early on, when we study architecture, we talk of universal design.
Yeah.
We are taught to design for everybody, for basically inclusiveness. We are taught to design for the elderly. We are taught to design for children, middle-aged, working, non-working, various classes also, middle class, upper class, lower class. So how does this, what is universal design for that matter?
What you said exactly is universal design, but I don't think that's what we practice. Like, I don't think a person with a fractured foot, I'm not even saying a person who's 90 years old, I'm saying a young, healthy person with a fractured foot can get into a bus or a train on his or her own, cannot even enter a public restaurant because it may have 2 steps, 3 steps. A person on a wheelchair cannot even dream of, going to a movie theater. And while we say there are lifts, but to reach the lift, you need 10 steps to climb.
Yeah.
So I don't think we are sensitized enough to the various challenges that a person may face physically. So I think it's very important. Like today, my mother, if she has to go to Ahmedabad, and we were having this conversation 2-3 days back. She has to go to Ahmedabad, and I live in Kandivli. So I said, Borivali station is 5 minutes. We just take a train. She said, no, but I can't reach the platform. How do I, reach? And she can walk, but she can't walk all that distance. So even if I have to there's a lift at the station now, but to take her to a lift, there is a walk, there are steps, there are varying textures, there's water somewhere, some part is slippery. So I said, okay, we'll book a flight. She says, no, but the airport has even more walking to do. So, what are the options for a senior person? Because how do you make it easier for them? Somebody with a wheelchair, that person cannot use public transport. We don't even have footpaths for people to safely walk. Forget people with disabilities. For normal people, I don't think there are...
Most of the footpaths are encroached.
Not only encroached, they're not even leveled. You can break your foot. You can slip. There are icy chambers which are on the footpaths where the covers are broken. The footpath abruptly stops. The footpath is way narrower than the road. So our idea of giving too much importance to the car percolates. I mean, not only do we build a coastal road, even on our tiniest of roads, we are more worried about parking and more worried about,
Especially parking.
Yeah. So inclusivity is extremely important, and I don't think, even as a teacher, I feel that we don't entirely insist. We never evaluate designs for universal access. अगर हम करते ना कि मतलब if I cannot navigate this space on a wheelchair or blindfolded, you'll fail. I think most of the designs would not pass the test.
So I think, so do you think we can give, to just teach universal design or inclusive design, we can always give an SKI or we can always give an additional exercise for it, or we could just make it a norm?
See, it is a norm. It's a norm which is broken or not followed.
Nee, but see, norm, so when we are designing, we are always told that no, you'll have to give a ramp or you'll have to give a wheelchair access. But I think that's it.
But you're not failed if you didn't give it. And if you're told कि मतलब ramp को थोड़ा ज़्यादा जगह लगेगा. So, it's equally bad if you give a ramp which is 45 degrees. If you say कि मैंने ramp तो दिया है, but अगर वो ramp usable ही नहीं है, so it's still a problem. And that is what happens even in our buildings here today. You can, like the place where I live also has a ramp. Now the building is 22 years old. After about 15 years, we got ramps made because we had a few children also who were on wheelchairs. But the ramp is not usable. The ramp without a railing and with really making an effort, and if you're carrying something in your hand, you can't use the ramp because it is way steeper than what it should be. So, पता नहीं, I think खुद को जब, if you are injured and you realize, or your own parent or somebody really close to you struggles with it, that's when you realize. Or it is made such a strict rule like this कि you won't get building permissions unless everything is in place. And I think that's not a bad kind of discipline to have, because if that makes things better, that's okay to take that stand as well.
Like it should be percolated way earlier in the rule book itself or in the control rules itself.
No, and the rules are there. That's
the rules are there.
The rules
I'm no, because we've also done our...
But shops, like one step up. Why? So it's not their fault. What can they also do? So the pavement and then one step up and there's a shop. So there are people who can't get in, or people who might get hurt while stepping out because it's just one step. It's not marked. It's not clearly seen.
So universal design बोलने के लिए we all know है, apply भी हो रहा है, but it's just not implemented at that level.
Can be better.
Can be better.
Like lots of things in life, this also can be slightly better.
Okay. So now summing our conversation up, So we also spoke about how fulfilling this the being a design educationist is. Any advice you would like to give the students? And also, I would like to know, uh, when do you stop guiding them? So sometimes हो जाता है, we get overly attached to our student as well. We as faculty also do get attached. Where's the full stop? Where's the line?
Okay, so lots of things to sum up. One is, I think design education shouldn't begin at 18.
Okay.
Okay, I think one can design, and it's the sensitive approaches can begin much earlier in school. You don't have to be an architecture student to know you need steps and ramps, or you need to build sensitively, to know your natural systems, the difference between rivers and nalas and streams. And so I think that part needs to begin much earlier in life. It can be in a part of schooling, it can be a part of how residential spaces work, how societies work. That's one part. That's about the field, that I don't think one needs to join architecture to know these things. Coming to your point about
Drawing the line.
drawing the line, I think it's very important to draw the line, because again, there was this nice line by Socrates who said that I cannot teach you anything, I can make you think. So I think that is what I tell myself also. You really, they also say you can take the horse to the water, you can't make it drink it. So it's something like that. I can make you think. And I think that is what the role of an educator, especially for kids who are already adults, they can vote the government of the country, so they are not young. You're not teaching them the alphabet and languages and stuff like that. But if you teach them to think, if you show them, the direction in which one can go, their future can go, the choices they can make. And I think then one has to draw the line, as you say. They are old enough to make a choice, but they should know what are the options available to them. And I think that is the role of the educator at this point. Anyways, with the internet, you can't, you have to know that they know more than you sometimes.
They're overexposed. They're definitely overexposed.
They know more than you. You can say, yeah, aisa hai, but they'll show you on the phone कि ऐसा नहीं है, 10 people have a different opinion on this. So really you can't teach them anything. You can only provide that window to the world, that frame in which they can see things. Yeah, letting go is very important for a teacher. And I think, again, I come back to my first point, that being a mother makes it easier for me, because I also know the same rules apply to my parenting. They say you give them the wings to fly and the roots to come back. So it's exactly like that. They have to fly, and they should fly.